In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to configure an extended ACL. This is going to be another example of numbered ACL. It's going to be a little bit more complex because in this example I've got three different subnets and actually VLANs. Subnet and a VLAN are synonymous. So I've got hosts in VLAN 10, hosts in VLAN 11, and hosts in VLAN 12. So each switch port is assigned to a different VLAN. And you can imagine multiple hosts assigned to each VLAN. And each VLAN has a subnet. This is 10 subnet, this is 11 subnet, and 12 subnet. And they're associated with each VLAN number. And they're connected to a switch, and there's two servers over here, server 1 and server 2. And they're in 192.168.3.0 subnet. And the routers are connected by 192.168.2.0 subnet. So I'm going to configure an ACL to do some filtering for all these subnets, and I'm going to apply it outbound on router 1 interface 10. The reason I'm doing that is because I want the filtering to affect all subnets. So it's going to apply to multiple subnets, so I have to select a common interface that all subnets use for proper filtering. So what I'm going to do is go over to extended ACL. I'm going to configure access list number 100 because that's where extended ACL numbers start numbering. So the requirements are that I want to prevent all HTTP traffic from hosts on VLAN 10 to server 1. So VLAN 10, I'm going to permit all web-based applications to server 1. So I'm going to permit them to use web-based applications on server 1. Then I want to deny all traffic from hosts on VLAN 10 to server 2. So that same subnet, I'm going to say you're not permitted to access anything on server 2. Then I want to deny all FTP traffic from hosts in VLAN 11 to server 2. So any FTP application that's running on server 2, I'm going to deny VLAN 11's host to access that application. And in that same VLAN 11, I want to permit them to access HTTP on server 1 as well. Then I'm going to deny all traffic from hosts in VLAN 12 to both servers. So VLAN 12 at the top won't be able to access applications on either server. Then I'm going to permit, then I'm going to use a permit IP any to prevent any traffic that doesn't match any previous statements. That's standard with a Cisco ACL, that you have to have the last statement as a permit IP any. Then I'm going to apply the ACL 100 outbound on router 1 interface 10. That's the WAN interface. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the first command, and this is going to permit web-based application traffic on VLAN 10 to server 1. So I'm going to permit that for VLAN 10 hosts. So what I'm going to do is start with, I'll go over to router 1, command line interface, sign on. So access lists are global commands. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to paste this in here. And this is the other part of it, 3.1. So from left to right, I'm reading this. This is 100, so it's an extended ACL. I'm going to permit TCP. So I'm saying permit an application, a TCP-based application. In that case, it's web-based applications, HTTP. The source is 192.168.10.0, and it's a subnet I'm permitting, not a host. It's everybody in a subnet. And the wildcard mask masks off the first 3 octets to specify that 10.subnet. And I'm saying the destination that I'm going to permit is to 192.168.3.1 server. That's the host. And the next command is going to be deny all traffic from, I'm going to deny all traffic from hosts on VLAN 10 to server 2. So server 2 is 3.2. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, in this example, I'm saying for this next statement, deny all applications. IP means all, means because it's one level below TCP, so it includes everything above IP, and that's TCP. So it's all applications. I'm saying from the 10.0 subnet, that's all hosts on that 10.0 subnet, and then specifying to the 3.2 server, and that's server 2, and that should do it. The next one is I'm going to start with VLAN 11. In this case, I want to deny FTP traffic from all hosts in VLAN 11 to server 2. So what I'll do is I'll just paste this in here. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying it's another 100, it's the same access list. So I'm going to deny TCP, the application will be FTP. And I'm saying deny it from all hosts on the 11 subnet, or VLAN 11. And I'm denying it to 3.2 server. So any FTP applications on that server 2, that's the IP address of server 2, 3.2, FTP applications, VLAN 11 won't have access to that. And the next one is for VLAN 11 as well. I'm going to say permit access to web-based applications on server 1. So we'll go over here and I'll just paste the next one in. So in this case, now I'm just saying permit web-based applications from all hosts on VLAN 11 or subnet 11 to server 1, that's 3.1 server. Now on to VLAN 12. In this case, I'm going to say deny all traffic from hosts on VLAN 12 to both servers. So what I'm doing is if I deny all applications, I need to use IP. So it's going to be deny IP, that means deny all applications from all hosts on subnet 12 or VLAN 12, and that's any means to any server. And that'll do it. And so that's all configured now, and then just the last statement of permit IP any. That's standard. So I'll paste that in there and just says permit everything else that doesn't match any previous ACL statement. And now I want to sign IP access group 100 out. So on the outgoing interface FA10, just going to verify that. Go to topology. So on the outbound interface is where I'm going to apply this WAN interface 10 on router 1. That's the outbound. It's a common interface to all the subnets. So I'm going to go interface 10 and IP access group. Then 100 is the number, and then out for outbound. And it's now applied. So now to do some testing, what I'm going to do here now is run through some tests. I can do show access lists. It'll list the access list. I can start with that. That's always a good thing. It's good for troubleshooting too. Show access lists. We'll show all of them. In this case, it's showing 100 only. And there's each statement, numbered from 10 through 60. That's just sequential numbering. And it shows all of them. You can do that for troubleshooting. And then what I'm going to do now is go to the hosts. So on the hosts, I want to start doing some testing. So I'll start with the 10 subnet, and I want to start an HTTP session on one of the hosts there and make sure that they can connect. And then I'm going to go and ping server 2 and make sure there's no connectivity permitted there. So if I go to VLAN 10, and I'll just start a command. And so what I'll do, actually I'll just do web browser first. So I'll go 192.168.3.1, and that is permitted, and that is correct. 3.1 should be permitted. So now I want to try a ping, and that's to server 2. And I'll go ping 192.168.3.2, and this is ping to server 2. So I don't have access to server 2. Destination host unreachable. So if I go back to the top here, does that make sense? So it says part of my requirements was deny all traffic from hosts on VLAN 10 to server 2. So when I do a ping, if I can't get a ping on that, then I'm not going to get anything above a ping, and that's application layer. So if I can't get a ping, I won't get any applications either. It's just a fast way of testing it. Now if I go to 11 subnet, 11 VLAN, I'm going to FTP from a host there, and I should be denied FTP to server 2, and I should be able to get a browser connection, however. So if I go to, very quickly, I'll go to VLAN 11, and I want to try FTP now. So FTP to server 2. So make sure that's what I'm doing here. So it says, so 3.2, that is where it's filtering. And it's trying to connect to start an FTP session with server 2, and it's not being permitted. So it timed out. The other thing I want to do is make sure that VLAN 11 can still get to web-based applications on server 1. So I'm going to go 192.168.3.1, and that can. So that requirement is confirmed there. The last thing is 12 subnet. People on the 12 subnet shouldn't be able to access anything, any applications. So the easiest thing to do there is just to ping both servers. So I'll go to VLAN 12, go to a host on VLAN 12, and I'll go to desktop and just go to a command prompt and try pinging. And nothing. So that's server 1. And 3.2, and that's server 2. Nothing. Destination host unreachable. So that confirms that the ACL is working correctly, and that concludes extended ACL.